Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Dux-Soup webinar. In this webinar, Giles Garnett, the Head of Professional Services, will show you how to get started with Dux-Soup. Live chat is being monitored by me, Jen, the Head of Customer Support, and at the end of the webinar, we will have Q&A with Giles. So thank you so much for joining us today, and let's start our webinar.
Hello and good morning, good afternoon or good evening to everyone joining today's Dux-Soup webinar, either live or in many cases recorded. Very happy to welcome you as always as we present the latest in our series of free webinars on Dux-Soup. Firstly, to introduce myself to anyone who's new, my name is Giles and I'm Head of Professional Services here at Dux-Soup. I've been presenting the webinars for Dux-Soup for the last couple of years or so, and you'll also come across me if you have a booster or technical call with us. Today, we're going to start from the beginning, as it were, hopefully useful for all our new and prospective users, as well as giving a bit of a refresher to those who are already using the tool. And maybe there are some features there that you aren't perhaps aware of. The idea is to give you enough information to get you started with Dux-Soup and a good level, and also with a good level of confidence. I'm going to introduce all the features from a high level so that you're aware of them, and then also with the focus on getting you going and getting the ball rolling with your lead generation. All our support information is available on our support pages. If I just bring that one up a second. And if you want to delve further into the details, you can find all the explanations here. We also have an extensive library of blog posts and of course all our previous webinars, which you can access through our homepage. There's going to be a mix of a few slides and some live demo, and hopefully everything's cooperating, so it's all going to go smoothly. As always, while I'm presenting and talking, Jin will be doing her best to answer all your questions on the web chat, so please keep the questions on topic so that they can be useful for everyone. Other questions can be raised via the Dux-Soup support pages, which you see there on the screen at the moment. There's a live chat there, and any questions that you get in which I'm able to help with, we'll cover at the end of the webinar if there's anything that people want to look at in more detail. As always, remember that the session is also being recorded and will be made available to everyone who's registered via an email in the coming days. And this will also be added to our website and the YouTube channel. So let's get going. The basic question which everyone asks, why automate your lead generation activities? And why would you want to do that in this manner with something such as Dux-Soup? Well, the basic answer is to make the most efficient use of your time. We all only have a certain number of hours available to us per day. And if you can get some of the simple repetitive tasks taken care of so that you can focus your efforts on more complex, higher value tasks, then why not? LinkedIn, as we all know, is an amazing resource with an incredibly active population of professionals from all industries, from every corner of the world. For anyone looking to build professional relationships online, the go-to place is undoubtedly LinkedIn. There are other platforms available as well, of course, but people always come back to LinkedIn. It's the staple diet of lead generation. So how can we make it work effectively for you? So first of all, if you are on LinkedIn, and this is a little bit of lead generation 101 to a degree, if you're on LinkedIn, consider how your profile looks. Whatever you do on the LinkedIn platform, if you visit someone's profile, if you comment on an article, if you react to a post, if you share an update or an article, people see who you are and will be able to click on your profile. It is an absolute must that your profile must be up to date and relevant to the people you want to engage with. I can't emphasize this enough, and I see it time and time again from people where a little bit more effort can make an enormous difference. Choose a professional photo, make use of the background, and don't just put your job title. Tell people what you can do, what you're offering, as this is what they see when you do something on LinkedIn, on that notification that you get. The more you do on LinkedIn, the more your link to your profile will pop up for people to be able to click on. So we've got the basics, we've got LinkedIn, we've got your profile sorted. So what is Dux-Soup? Dux-Soup is a Chrome extension which you can use on the LinkedIn platform to mimic human behavior. And it can be used on the free LinkedIn platform, it can be used on Sales Navigator and Recruiter. And I'm going to be demonstrating most things on regular LinkedIn and Sales Navigator today. See how far we get with all the time and everything. And basically it works in a way that you select the list that you want Dux-Soup to process, and then you get it to run your chosen activities against that list. And we'll come on to some of the definitions as what I mean by list in a bit. Really important to focus there on the human behavior. Do not get the robot to do something that is not humanly possible. Do not ask the robots to visit 2,000 profiles a day. It's not humanly possible. You will be putting your LinkedIn account at risk. And I go back to what I said earlier. On our webpage, have a look at our blogs. We've got a lot of information on there, lots of guides and how-tos, and some recommended settings as to how to keep your account safe as possible. We think that the way that we've implemented Dux-Soup is the safest way to be able to automate activities on LinkedIn, because it is mimicking the clicks of the mouse. Basically, Dux-Soup has 3 editions or levels. There's the starter edition, which is free. There's the pro edition, and there's the turbo. So let's go through the basic features. With Dux-Soup starter, you can carry out what we call auto visits to profiles, and you can scan profiles. And those are the activities that you can do with Dux-Soup starter. If we then move on to the pro version, you can do those, but then you can also, during an auto visit, you can invite with or without a personalized message. You can search, filter, and target with Dux-Soup tags, and we'll come on to what tags are. You can auto message your first degree connections. You can even send automated Inmails. You can also endorse first degree connections, and you can download data. You can also save profiles as leads in Sales Navigators, a whole list of features that Dux-Soup Pro can carry out, and we'll go through those on the screen shortly. Dux-Soup Turbo, you can do all of that, plus you can build unlimited campaigns from automated follow-up messages. So that could be a connection request and auto follow-ups. You can build limitless campaigns, but you're limited to 12 messages in a campaign, but you can build as many campaigns as you like. With the funnel flow, where you can track the success or otherwise of your campaigns. Using the API, you can integrate into other systems, that via Zapier or Integromat/Make, using the webhooks. And you can also connect directly to either HubSpot or Pipedrive. And then you've also got the Dux-Dash for monitoring, where you can then see exactly what your robot is doing on your behalf on your LinkedIn account. So those are our features. All of the feature information, all the feature sets are also listed on our website. So we'll have a look and show you where you can find all of that information at some point as well. What I'm going to do is, this is sort of what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go through a few definitions, because there are some expressions that we use when we're using Dux-Soup that people go, what do you mean by that? So I've got a list of a few definitions which may be useful. I'm going to show you can install Dux-Soup. If you've not used it before and it's your first installation, you get a free, no obligation 2-week turbo trial available. So we can show you that. We can do a walk through the features of the Starter Pro and Turbo, an explanation of the options and what's in the Dux-Dash, and then also how to build a simple campaign in Turbo, hopefully then giving us plenty of time for some questions at the end. So we'll have a look at a few definitions. Try and remember these as we go through, because it may be just useful as a reference point. So we often talk about first, second, and third degree connections. A first degree connection is somebody who you are directly connected to, someone who's accepted your connection request. Second degree connections are people who you have a common connection with, but you're not directly connected to them. And then third degree is one step beyond that. Think of it as a hierarchy. To enroll, if we're talking about campaigns in Dux-Soup, you enroll profiles into a campaign. And that's one of the options you get from the drop-down box in Dux-Soup Turbo. A list. This is what Dux-Soup recognizes as something that it can process. So what you'll actually notice, and I'll try and show you this as well, is when Dux-Soup recognizes what's on the page as a list that it can process, the color of the icon changes and it flashes up at your service. You'll notice that it turns green, and that's a signal that what's on the page is good to go. If that doesn't happen, you haven't got what we call a list there. So it hasn't identified it as a list of LinkedIn URLs that it can action against. Follow-ups. These are messages that are sent to once a contact has become a first degree connection. So we talk about follow-up messages as part of a campaign. tagging or tags. Dux-Soup tags are customizable and searchable, and you can add and remove those to profiles. That's a feature of both Pro and Turbo. Inmails, that's a premium LinkedIn messaging service, allowing you to reach out to other users. To paid for, you get so many credits. We did a webinar on that a couple of weeks back. Might be worth a look at if you are a premium user of LinkedIn. A visit is opening up a LinkedIn profile. And that there's often this discussion, well, what's a visit, what's visit and connect, what's scan, etc. So visit is just opening a profile. Visit and connect is opening a profile and sending a connection request if possible. So for example, if you auto visit a first degree connection, you can't send them a connection request. If they're too far removed from you, they're beyond a third degree connection, you can't send them a connection request. So just remember all of these different terminologies. Scan, that's another one. So that's collecting high level data from a list. So for example, you've got a search result, you choose to scan it. Dux-Soup will gather what will provide you with one line of data in a CSV file per profile, and then you can do something with that later, be it, for example, create a custom list or something like that. And revisit, that's how you would utilize that custom list, a CSV file. So these are just some of the terminologies which I'm going to probably touch on during what I'm presenting today. So let's come out of there and let's go to LinkedIn. For anybody who's new, this is myself here on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me a connection request. I always say that. Usually get quite a few connection requests coming in. Put a message on there that you've engaged with me through the Dux-Soup webinars. Very happy to hear from people and to engage with you on the platform. See here, I've got my profile photo, my background, and I've got my description up to date there, so it's clear what I do. It's very, very easy to see what I'm doing. So I've got Dux-Soup installed here, and the way I did that was I went to the Chrome store here, the Chrome web store, and all you need to do there is type in Dux-Soup, and you'll see it here at the top, Dux-Soup for LinkedIn automation. We've got our appropriate badges here as well, yeah, this is where you would go to install it. I've got it installed, so I don't need to install it again. But if you're a first-time installation, it's linked to your Chrome account. First-time installation, you will get the two-week free trial of Turbo, completely without obligation. So you get a chance to try it out with all the bells and whistles and go from there. Once you've installed it, you'll notice up here, I've got my icon here. Always advise people to use the drawing pin to pin your extension icon there, so that you actually always got it rather than having to every time drop down for the menu to appear. And because I've got Turbo, I've got a turquoise icon. If you've got Pro, then it's red, I believe, and if it's the starter edition, it's black. So you can always tell which edition you've got by just hovering over the icon there. Once it's installed, you then get actually a walkthrough guide as well. We've now got some pop-ups which come up which show you how to get going and started. But when you've got your LinkedIn, your Dux-Soup extension installed, it's basically going to sit there and listen for when it can do something on your behalf. And what we can do is we go to my LinkedIn homepage here. There we go. What we'll notice at the moment now, if I click on the Dux-Soup icon, I can't actually, all of these are grayed out. It hasn't recognized what's on here as a list. Can't carry out any of my automated actions. If I now pull up a list here, so let's just carry out a quick search for somebody. I don't know. Operations manager, there we go. Let's just do a very quick search in regular LinkedIn. This is the most common place that people go to create their searches. We'll just do a quick people search. And what we'll see in a second is that the Dux-Soup icon, any second now, will turn green and say at your service. There we go. So it's recognized what's on the screen is a list. Now, if this was the list of people that I wanted to carry out my chosen account actions against, this is where I would go to now. Okay, I then choose my chosen action here and set the robot off. We're not going to do that yet, because what I would like to do is walk you through all the different options so that you have confidence in when you set the robot off to carry out one of these activities here, you know what the robot's going to be doing on your behalf. So here I've got a list of people which is 8.5 million. That's completely useless to anybody because it's far too broad a list. So what I'm going to do is let's narrow it down a little bit to get it a little bit more focused. Thing to remember, in a regular LinkedIn search, LinkedIn only show you the first 1,000 results. So you never see beyond the first 1,000. So even here I've got 2,000 results. That's way too many because we see here at the bottom, it's only showing me 100 pages. So ideally, when you carry out a search in LinkedIn, you want it to have under 1,000. So let's try and narrow that down a little bit more. If you're doing it in Sales Navigator, you get to see 2,500. So you have that option there, a little bit more flexibility there. So here we are, I've got 628 people here in a search result in regular LinkedIn. So say I'd carried out some focused search criteria, and I've now got my list of people that I want to carry out my action against. Well, what do I want to do with this list? I click on my Dux-Soup icon up here, and I'm going to go to my options here in the top right hand corner, and I'm going to walk through all of the different options here so that you have that clear in your mind. So what I can do is I can just, for example, leave all of this off and go and visit all of these people, in which case I can go back here and I could go, okay, go and visit the profiles. And Dux-Soup would carry out an auto visit to each of these people in turn, as long as this tab remained open and I didn't minimize the Chrome window. It's very important to remember, if you minimize the Chrome window, the robot goes into snooze mode. Dux-Soup would start at the top and it would work its way down, opening each profile in turn. You'd see a pop-up come up in the bottom right-hand corner, and Dux-Soup would carry out it would open it, and they'd each get a little notification that I had visited them. However, I can also, if I wanted to, send a connection request and potentially include a personalized message. And you see here, I've got a message that I've written for a different campaign. And you can see here, I've got the option to use some markers here. So I can put _FN_ in order to, let me zoom in a little bit so that that's actually a bit more visible to people. You can see here that you can use these markers to make your message look personalized, and that's really important. People do respond better to a personalized message than just a generic, hi, do you want to connect? There are all sorts of other levels of detail you can go into about personalizing messages, where you can build custom files. You can see down here this P1 to P5. We've covered that in previous webinars, but it's important to remember making your messages customized does make a difference. So I could enable this one here and turn it on, and I could go back to my list here and say, right, yeah, visit and connect. And I would hit the visit and connect button there, including my custom message, and each of these people would then get my connection request message as well. If I zoom out a little bit, that might be more useful. Oh, it's probably because it's on there. Okay, right, so that's that one. Our next option down is, this is quite important as people send out a lot of connection requests. So we can ask Dux-Soup to automatically cancel pending connection requests after a defined number of days. So when you're sending connection requests out, let me just open a new LinkedIn tab a second. If I go into my network here, I see some connection requests are coming in. Excellent. If I go up to here and see all 86, and I look at my sent connection requests, if you're sending out a number of connection requests, this list here can build up really, really quickly. If you're sending out, 100, 150 connection requests a week, depending on how quickly people are responding to you, this list will get big. But what you have here is the option to be able to, Dux-Soup will automatically cancel those requests after a set number of days. It'd be a really useful way to manage that list there. You can also send personalized messages to first degree connections here. So it's a really good message, that one. So if your list of people on your page is of first degree connections, so this is a search result of second degree. If I change this now to first degree connections, there we go. I've got a few there. If I wanted to send all of these people here a message, these are first degree connections, I can put in my first degree message here. I can write them a much longer message here because they're first degree connections already. And then I can say to Dux-Soup, right, please just go and visit those profiles. And during that auto visit, those people would then get my first degree message. And you can do that in regular LinkedIn or in Sales Navigator. Again, you can make use of these markers to make it look personalized. Similarly, if you're using Inmail, you can also use Dux-Soup to send Inmails using Sales Navigator or Recruiter. And I covered this quite extensively in a previous webinar, but again, if you've got your list of people on your screen and you want to send out your Inmails, then yeah, you would just pull up the list of people that you want to do that. You can't do in-mailing from regular LinkedIn. You do have to go to Sales Navigator. For anybody who's not familiar with Sales Navigator, I'll just go in there now very quickly. Let me just go to a saved search. So I've got a list of people on the screen. Here we go. Waiting for that to load. So here we go. I've got a list of people here, and I could, for example, say I'd like to send these people an in-mail, or some of these people here an in-mail. You've got all sorts of different filters here as well. If you're using Sales Navigator, and as I said earlier, you get 2,500 people in your search results here. So yeah, you can use Dux-Soup to send an in-mail to people as well. It's a very powerful way to reach out to people. Now you can also, and these are all what I've talked about so far are all pro features as well. So any paid version of Dux-Soup covers these. You can also ask Dux-Soup to follow a profile using standard LinkedIn. So for example, if I went back to my list here of let's just look at third degree connections now, just for a change. So for example, maybe I don't want to connect with these people, but I'd like to follow them. I can say to Dux-Soup, yeah, just go and follow them. I don't have to send a connection request. I don't have to connect with them. I can follow them to get updates from them. You can also use Dux-Soup to disconnect profiles from your network. So if you have a list of first degree connections that you want to remove from your network during an auto visit in standard LinkedIn, you can get Dux-Soup to disconnect. That becomes an issue if you get sort of 30,000 or upwards of 25,000 connections, first degree connections, because there is a limit of 30,000 connections in the LinkedIn network. You can save a profile as a lead using Sales Navigator, and then they would then appear in your lead lists here under your saved leads, and then you can then allocate them to your appropriate lists. That way you can automatically have a profile saved as a lead again during an auto visit. You can save a profile as a PDF as well in standard LinkedIn. And if you're visiting first degree connections in regular LinkedIn, you can also choose to endorse profiles during a visit. We talked about tagging. You can tag profiles here. And this is very, very useful because you can tag people with labels or whatever it is that you want, so you know what you've done to them. So for example, if I wanted to send out my personalized message to first degree connections here, I would then say, yep, I'm sending them whatever campaign message here it is, and I'd give them that campaign tag while I visited them. And then in order to make sure I wasn't sending the same message to those people, I can use that in combination with my skipping rules in order to make sure that if they've already got that tag, they don't get the same message. So if I just show you that quickly, tag profiles as campaign 1, well, also visiting, if I go to my skipping rules here, I could then say, yep, if they've got campaign 1 here, then they wouldn't get that message again. It's a very good way to make sure you're not sending out that message to the same people again and again and again. If I just open a profile very quickly here, just to show you how the tags look. Apologies to this gentleman for opening his profile. But what we'll see in a minute on the right hand side is there we go. We've got the little icon here that's popped up, and what we see here is we've got the option to add tags here. So if I give this guy the campaign, oh, I've just given him a tag called campaign. There we go. I've given him that tag, so I can now go and find him if I needed to using the search by tag option. If I go into my Dux-Soup icon here, it's because I zoomed in, isn't it? And I go to search by tag here, and if I type in here campaign, we will see that gentleman's profile appear here. And this is the way that you can search your people by tags. So if you've got a campaign message number 1, for example, you can then use this facility to then run Dux-Soup from here. Remember, it sees this as a list. You can run Dux-Soup from here as well. So there's different ways of being able to use it. The tags are incredibly powerful. You can automatically tag people. You can also manually tag people. You can also manually remove tags in exactly the same way as you manually add them. So it's a very powerful way to be able to organize the people. I tend to tag people based upon the criteria upon which I found them, and also usually the location, and also campaign related as well, of course, if I'm running some sort of an outreach. So that's tagging there, which we talked about here. Let's just go up here and zoom out a fraction. There we go. Other options here. So you also have some automated action exclusions here. So you could, for example, choose to exclude profiles with fewer than a set number of connections. You want it maybe established profiles to visit. And then you also have some other options here, the blacklisting and the other one, those are related to more the campaign type activities, which we'll touch on when we come on to the turbo features in a minute. So everything I've talked about so far has been pro related. I'll just continue our very brief skip through these other options here. So here you have your skipping rules. You can choose various options here depending on the status of people. One example here would be if you wanted to use your free InMail credits, you could say skip if not an open link member. People who are open link members will allow you to send them a free InMail without having to use your credits. That's quite a useful one. A few other ones here as well. History skip is useful. It's pretty self-explanatory. Very important for everybody, the throttling tab. This is where you control the speed of the robot. We always recommend slowly or random. That's visiting. Scanning medium is usually fine. You have also the option to pause it for so many minutes to make it look even more random. And then under your daily limits here, you can change these. But it very much depends whether you've got a free LinkedIn or a paid LinkedIn account as to how much you can do. We have seen a few examples of free LinkedIn accounts being able to do quite a lot less than paid accounts at the moment. They seem to limit the number of connection requests and the amount of activity that you can carry out. Paid accounts seem to be able to do an awful lot more on the LinkedIn network at the moment, but it's something that seems to change almost with the wind. But there are weekly limits in place for invitations. There are reasonable use limits in place from LinkedIn. Do look at our pages. I'll just go back over to here on our home page. If you go to our resources here and under our blog section, there's a number of different blogs here which will help you out with regarding daily limits, what's a safe level of activity, etc., etc. So be aware of that as well. So that's the throttling tab. We'll come back to connect in a second. The planner is very useful because this allows you to control exactly when you're happy for the robot to run on your behalf. There's a few conditions that must be met. You must be logged on to LinkedIn. You need to have Chrome loaded up. You need to have started the robot against a list, and the planner needs to be active in order for the robots to run. So for me, it's 5:30. So you see here on Tuesday afternoon, 5:30 my time, it is allowed to run. I can change that as well and just hit the save button. This is also useful to make sure that you're not allowing duplicate or parallel activities to happen on an account. So for example, if you're running LinkedIn automation with Dux-Soup at any time, we advise you not to use your LinkedIn account for anything else at that time, because it may look to LinkedIn like there's more than one person on the account. That's really, really important. But yeah, you may be working in a different part of the world to where your customers are, for example. So you can also use this. The planner will work to your local computer time. Just for completeness then, under the user tab, this is where your information around your license and your Chrome account would be. And the browser here, these are some of the default settings. Depending on how good your connection is, you may need to allow the browser performance to have a little bit more time for the data to load, depending on the speed of your connectivity. So we've been through all that. We've had a look at some lists. Just to touch on lists, there are a number of different lists that work with Dux-Soup. So we've done a search result here. If I go back to my home page here, you can also run it against people who've liked a post, for example. So if I take this one here, 170 odd people have liked this, I can run Dux-Soup against this list here. There we are, it pops up, says at your service. You know whether or not you can run it when you get that little pop-up there. You can also run it against page followers. If you're the administrator of a company page, for example, you can run it against employee lists. You can run it against alumni lists, group members. I think it's project lists in Recruiter, lead lists in Sales Navigator. Any list that you can find of people, basically. That's what Dux-Soup is listening out for. Now, what I'd like to just do is jump onto a couple of the turbo features as well now. So turbo is, if I click on the Dux-Soup icon, oh, it's still zoomed in. Oh, it's because we need to go back here and probably zoom out a little bit here. There we go. That's going to be easier. There we go. Oh, there we go. So here down in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got access to what we call the Dux Dash here. And the Dux Dash is where you go. You do have access to this in Pro, but you have very limited features here. This is where, if you've got Dux-Soup Turbo, you can go to build, manage, and monitor your campaigns. And what you'll see over here on the left-hand side is a number of different options. You have the drip campaigns, the funnel flow, the queued activity, the activity log, your connections, and the Dux store. So your drip campaigns, this is where you can go to build your campaigns. So if I take this one here, for example, you can take this one here for this one here I did for a webinar a while back. Here I've built a campaign which includes a connection request. It's only 118 characters out of 300. I've then got a number of follow-up messages. It's always remember to read this carefully. Follow-up number 1 goes 1 day and 4 hours after connecting. This one goes 5 days after connecting. So always remember the times between these. So there's going to be 3 days between these two, and then 7 days between these two, and then 8 days between these two. I've got here a campaign with a connection request, these follow-up messages. If I enroll somebody into this campaign, they will get this connection request. As and when they connect, they'll then get these follow-up messages. Dux-Soup will listen out for those people who are accepting. It will queue up those corresponding messages and send them out on a time delay. It will also listen out for people who are responding to my campaign and then by default, stop the further follow-up messages from going out. That's quite important. And then you can monitor those messages coming back in so that you can then take the appropriate action. So just to explain how that works here under the funnel flow, excuse me, wait for this to load up. There we go. So if I take this campaign here as an example, I enrolled a certain number of people. See who I invited, and if I click on each of these blocks here, I will see the list here. I can also, using this icon here, copy that and paste it into a spreadsheet if I want to. There I see copy to clipboard. But here, this is the important one. I can go straight to see who has responded to, who's replied to me. And when this loads up in a second, it's a little bit slow this afternoon. We'll get this list of 58 people up in a second. What I can then see is who's responded and what with. So here, for example, this guy here, he's responded. There we are. There. Now I could then say, right, I want to reflow him so he continues to get the messages, or I can just click on his LinkedIn profile over here on the right-hand side, open his profile and message him direct. Dux-Soup listens out for who's responding, so that you can then take the appropriate action from then on. If you've got campaign messages queued up or invites queued up, you'll see that here listed under your queued activity, and then under your activity log as well, you'll see a historical record of everything that's happened under your account, and you can have a look and see exactly what actions have been taken in place. Also with Turbo, if you are interested in connecting directly with either Pipedrive or HubSpot, you can do that here through the CRM connections. And one for anybody with a paid Dux-Soup account, this is an extra one here under the Dux store here. This is where you can use Dux store to look up email addresses of non-first degree connections during an auto visit. You can purchase Dux points, Dux-Soup points here, and if you enable it, then Dux-Soup will look to see if it can find an email address linked to the account you're visiting. It can be quite a useful facility for people. Just remember, it's only the email addresses that people have used to register on LinkedIn. So yeah, just be aware of that. It is useful for a lot of users, and it's available to anybody who has a paid Dux-Soup account. Right, let me just go back to what was one last thing I want to show you under the Dux-Soup options. So if I just go back to my options here, click on there. Finally, if you're using Turbo, you also have access to the API, as I mentioned earlier, and that's where here under the Connect tab, this is where the message bridge and the remote control, those allow a lot of the campaign activities and the interactions through the API to occur. But you also have the ability to interact with it pretty much any other system that you choose to use using the webhook facility, having data sent to and from wherever it is that you want it to go, using perhaps Zapier, for example. So there's lots of information about that on our website. And yeah, that's that. If we head back to here a second, so let's just go back to the slideshow. So we've talked about some definitions, so certain keywords that we talk about. We've talked about how to install Dux-Soup, walk through the basic features of Starter Pro and Turbo, and explanation of the Dux-Soup options and the Dux Dash, how to build a simple campaign in Turbo. We've talked about Inmails and Dux-Soup points, but there's one other thing I'm going to show you as well, is how to enroll somebody to a campaign. If I just go to a quick search here, you see these people here. I've got them all here on my search result. What I can do here is I have a few options as to how I would enroll these people. I could click on the Enroll Profiles button here into my campaign. So say I wanted to enroll them all into my webinar demo campaign, I could click on that there and I could just press OK. That would enroll everybody on that list into my chosen campaign. It would queue up the activities and that would get carried out accordingly. And I just need to reload the page a second. I also have a second and a third option. What we see here, we have the Dux Tricks pop out menu here. I can choose from all of the campaigns that I've built. If I want to cherry pick who goes into which campaign, I can just click on that and hit enroll. So I can then scroll down this list and enroll who I want to in whichever campaign, or I can visit profiles individually. And also in similar way to the tagging I did earlier, I can then also choose to enroll them into a campaign from here as well. So that's how you would enroll an individual into a campaign using the Turbo facility. The pop-out box here on this one, this only works on search pages in Sales Nav and regular LinkedIn. It doesn't work in some of the other lists. You have to do it from a search result. And I'm sure that there's all sorts of other things that people perhaps want to ask about. So what we're going to do is go back to our slides, and that's what we've talked about. We've talked through some definitions. A quick promotion for in 2 weeks' time. We have one of our regular presenters. I guess he's regular now. It'll be his third or fourth. Tyron. He's going to be presenting to us in 2 weeks' time. The LinkedIn nurture sequence that achieves an 85% response rate. It is an interactive webinar. So if you are registering for it, you will get some preparation work to do. You'll get sent some information because the idea is to make it as interactive as possible. Tyron's incredibly engaging. One other thing to note, it is 1 hour earlier than usual because Tyron lives over in Tokyo, and in order for it to work, he needs to do it an hour earlier than our usual time. So just be aware of that. If you register, you'll get some information through, which hopefully you can do some preparation in advance to get the most out of it. But yeah, it should be great. I've spoken to Tyron several times about it, and yeah, it's going to be really interesting and engaging for people. Booster and tech calls, as always. If you need help with your setup or something like that, then you can book those. Just have a look at our support pages or ping a message through to our support team and they will be able to assist you with that. And if you need to reach out to support, you'll see the email address in the corner of this page. And Jin, do we have any questions?
Sorry, I was muted and I was talking to myself. Yeah, we have a couple of questions.
Cool.
So one of the questions is, does Turbo have all the pro features? Just to
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. With Turbo, you get all of the features. Basically, think of it insofar as with Turbo, you get everything, including the API. The API is really the big thing, which enables all of the campaigns and the follow-ups and the integrations to work. That's where and all the access to the Dux-Dash and campaign activities, etc., etc. The Pro version is where it just allows you to send one-time messages, nothing that's scheduled, if you like. It's just in real time, if you like. Turbo allows you to do things on delay, allows you to trigger actions from other places, other environments, and as I said, send those messages on delay and run campaigns. So yeah, that's really how you need to think of it. Maybe that's something I should bring up actually. If we go to here, we go to the Dux-Soup homepage, and here we have what's included in each edition of Dux-Soup. So here you can have a check down each of the feature sets here under personalized automated outreach, campaigns, lead management, searching and filtering, etc., etc. Okay.
Thank you. Another question, which I was not sure about. So customer is using Recruiter, and they are wondering if open link feature is also available on Recruiter, or is it only on Sales Navigator?
I have to say, hand on heart, I don't know, because I don't have a Recruiter account at the moment. We'll need to go away and check that one, I'm afraid, Jin.
Okay, that's what we will do.
If you
So that we can answer.
I know we have. I know in the support team we do have a Recruiter account, so we'll go away and double check that for you.
Yes. So please get in touch with Dux-Soup support, info@duxsoup.com, and we will definitely check this further. Another question would be, can I use Dux-Soup for event announcements?
Absolutely, yeah, perfect for event announcements. What I would do is I would use, if you're, for example, wanting to send it out and you have a URL to your event, you can send that as a first degree message to your existing network. Tag people with that. So let's do a quick example, shall we? That sounds like a perfect excuse. So if, for example, if I wanted to, let's have a think. Maybe I've got maybe I've got some sort of management events that I want to promote. So I'm going to look for anybody who's a manager, who's in my, make sure it's a people search first. And I only want to reach out to, for example, my first degree connections, because those are the people I know who I'm engaged with. So here we are, I've got 1,500 people here. It might be that I have to break it down geographically in order to make sure that I've got the appropriate number of people here. So here we go, I've got 365 people. What I would do then, if I was using Pro, I would, for example, here under my options, I would, here is my event, there we go, and then put my URL in there, a bit more information about it, for example, etc., etc., etc. And I'd also tag them with invite one, for example. And then I could say, right, Dux-Soup, go and turn off that one because they're all first degree, so I wouldn't do that. So I just do visit. They would then each get my invite or my message regarding that. Alternatively, I could also using Turbo as well, where perhaps I would want to send out a series of messages. So maybe my event is in a month's time. So I could then, for example, here under the Dux-Dash, my drip campaign, I could build a new campaign called, I don't know, event one. And then I could, for example, here under my follow-up, I do hi underscore fn underscore some info about my event, and then I could say, right, well, I want that one to go out first, and then I want in a week's time maybe another message, and then maybe a final reminder in 2 weeks' time, their last chance perhaps, like that. So I could build a campaign here. I've called it event 1, and now because I'm going to send this to first degree connections, I don't need to put a connection request. I could also put a connection request in there and send it to non-first degree connections, of course. But if I can put the URL in there, and then what I could do is I've got my campaign written here for event 1. We'll save that. There we go. If I now go back to this page here and I just refresh this one, there we go. And we'll just wait for the pop-up to come out any second now. There we go. So if I went down here and see event 1, right, I could now enroll him into that campaign there. Alternatively, I could just click on the enroll profiles here and click down here and go event 1 and just press OK. And all of these people would then get enrolled into my event 1 campaign. That would queue up those messages to go out over my chosen period of time. Really, really powerful way of doing it. But yeah, I would also use, if I was using campaigns, that's really straightforward. Because you can't enroll people into a campaign multiple times. You can enroll them into lots of different campaigns. If I was using the other option of first degree message here, I would make sure I tag them here, and that I also make sure I skip the profiles that I've already tagged with that tag so that I don't send the same message out multiple times, which I've seen some people do before. So that's how I would do that, yeah.
Thank you. Another question. How do you handle the fact that you don't know what the right language to message the contact when you want to send auto invite and follow-up messages? Are there any tips?
You can filter in LinkedIn by profile language. I'm sure you can here. There we are. So carry out your searches based upon your based upon the profile language. So you can use the profile language filters to make sure that you're only searching for people who have their profile in a specific language. That's how I would deal with that. Now, because I live in the Netherlands, I get a lot of communication in Dutch, even though my profile is not in Dutch. But that's purely based because people have done it based upon location. I would always use the profile language filter in regular LinkedIn and in Sales Navigator to make sure that I was sure about my outreach languages. And you can also build, campaigns in different languages. And then, for example, if I just go back here to my Dux Dash, and if I go to one of my other campaigns, you can see here, for example, I've got a growth hacking in English campaign, and I've got a separate growth hacking in Dutch campaign. My Dutch one's very, very brief, but there we go. It was only done as an example. So yeah, you can also do, build multiple different campaigns in different languages, and then just enroll people into the appropriate campaign according to their language or according to your filtering. So that's how I would do it very much. Is I would be looking to use the profile language filters here in LinkedIn.
Thank you. Another question, more complicated because it's about Turbo. So in Turbo with webhooks, does that allow us to target a number of profiles that are only sent a message, followed, connected, etc., when they have made a certain action? So for example, commented on a post, make a post themselves, can they set up Dux-Soup to trigger?
Not currently. So when they've commented on a post or liked something, was that right?
Yes. So if some sort of action has been done on LinkedIn, can they set up Turbo using webhooks?
If there's a way to capture that activity, it may be possible to get a notification that activity has happened. As long as you've got a way of capturing that activity via another system, then you can you can trigger a remote control action through Dux-Soup, through maybe Zapier or something, to visit their profile or to message them. Dux-Soup won't listen out for people who are commenting or reacting to posts, but there may be other systems that do. So it's a yes and a no. It depends on what other systems you're using to listen out for those activities. But that's also quite a good lead-in. I like the way you did that there. This is always a useful place to go. This is our feedback page, our suggestions box, if you like. If there are features that you are looking for that you think we're really missing out on with Dux-Soup, you can always suggest them here and add comments or upvote to any of the things that you see here. So this is quite a useful place to go with such things. If the person who has asked that question wants to email support, I'm happy to engage in a conversation with them regarding specifically what they may or may not be able to do, depending on what the other systems they are using can do. But in theory, yeah, if there's a trigger, then you can use that. If there's a trigger that's set off, then you can use that as the trigger for other actions for Dux-Soup to action, should we say, send remote control commands.
Thank you. Another question. How do you, no, actually, can you talk briefly about what we can do with the funnel stacking features? So qualify in and qualify out.
Yes, of course. So here under the Dux dash, I should have left it loaded up, shouldn't I? We'll just wait for this to load. There we go. So as the person there's quite rightly said, you can qualify in and qualify out people. Basically this is like a snapshot view. It's a funnel. It's showing the funnel of your prospects going from enrolled, invited, how many have accepted, how many follow-up messages have you actually sent, how many people have responded to you. And then here you have the option to be able to qualify people in. Are they a really interesting profile? Are they qualify them out? I'm curious if you're lead gen tactics. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, you can reflow releases them to get further follow-up messages. Qualifying them in, they would then be moved to the qualified box here, so you can then take them further. Say earlier, you can copy and paste them into another spreadsheet to be able to do stuff with them, or qualify them out. Maybe they're completely irrelevant. Maybe they have absolutely no yeah, if I hit the qualify out button there, what I can do then is I can also see who I've qualified out here, and that does also then give me the option to see why did I qualify them out. You know, you actually go over here and see who qualified out, or qualified, who have you qualified as a high value potential lead, who you need to focus on. Those are the important things. Who qualified leads are the ones you need to focus on. Qualified out ones are the ones you don't want to send any more information to because they are not relevant, or they're maybe of the wrong type of person for the campaigns that you're running, I should say. It's probably a more politically correct way of saying it. But yeah, it's just a different way of doing that. But what you'll see there is because I've qualified him out, we see he actually just gets removed entirely. So this was 953 just now. I qualified that guy out. That's dropped down. He's basically been excluded from the campaign because, yeah, it wasn't appropriate for this guy to be in this campaign. Okay.
Thank you. A simple question. Are the webinars recorded?
The webinars are all recorded, and let's also use that as an opportunity to go to our homepage here under our resources. You'll see here where it says webinars. You see here the one in 2 weeks' time with Tyron, and we can see down here. We get further down. All of our previous webinars are available here. They are saved on our YouTube channel. There's a playlist there of tutorials and webinars and lots of content for you all. I mentioned earlier the InMail one, so here we are, the InMail tricks one, that's there. That's from a couple of weeks ago. All sorts of other things here. You can search through this lot. There are lots and lots of videos there, and as I said earlier as well, There's also the blogs there as well. So yeah, you can, for example, if you were interested in looking for, I think this is one, here we go. So yeah, using LinkedIn automation safely, you see here there's an article giving you some tips and tricks, best practices for Dux-Soup Pro. That was also covered quite a lot of safety stuff as well. So all of these blog posts are available via the website, as well as the recorded webinars.
Thank you. Another question. When you disconnect your computer, do you need to restart the bot for all the queued campaigns?
No, if you've got queued activities in your queue, activities in your queue, I should say, they will automatically, when you open up Chrome, if you are logged onto LinkedIn, they will start to be processed as long as you're within your daily limits and you've got the planner active. When you start up the computer, it will, if you've got queued activity, that will get processed in due course according to your throttlings and your settings and your calendar. It's only if you're running the robot against a list, for example, auto visiting or sending messages or sending invites. Those are the those are the things that you would need to restart because they're not on time delay. The time delay stuff will happen in the background. It'll just kick off as and when you're logged back in.
Thank you. Another question. Can we run more than one campaign?
Yes, you can run multiple campaigns in parallel, and you can build as many campaigns as you like. I think the most I've seen somebody with is 57 different campaigns. I'm not quite sure how you manage that many, but yeah, that was a user I saw about 5 or 6 months ago. Yeah, you can run multiple campaigns in parallel. They will get, the messages will get queued up accordingly, depending on when people accept your connection request, etc. So yeah, it's very normal to be running multiple campaigns depending on what your target is. Just remember that the enrollment activity will if you enroll people, am I right in saying, Jin, if you enroll people, that gets priority? So the enrollment works, and then the invites then get queued up in chronological order.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another question would be, a lot of people are confused with the whole separation of LinkedIn and Sales Navigator. So are the messages registering in both free LinkedIn and Sales Navigator? It seems that LinkedIn has 2 independent in-mail boxes or message boxes at the moment. Would you be able to expand on that, please?
Yes, of course. So for anyone who's not clear, then yeah, basically Sales Navigator is a separate platform to regular LinkedIn, and Recruiter is also a separate platform. Sales Navigator is the platform that's available if you have a Sales Navigator account, of course, as well as regular LinkedIn. You have both of them. You don't just have Sales Nav. But unfortunately, yeah, thanks to the commercial powers that be within LinkedIn, they then make it so that you then have 2 mailboxes to manage. So you see here, I've got a messaging mailbox here in regular LinkedIn. Then I also have here in Sales Navigator, I have a separate mailbox. So there we are. You see, I've got that message there. This one here, that's my Sales Navigator. Or I can go back here to regular LinkedIn messaging. So you have these 2 different places to manage. And that unfortunately is just the case with LinkedIn. Depending on which platform you use, depends on which platform your message gets sent in. And then it also depends upon what platform your target is using as to where their response appears. So it's all of these things need to be considered depending on what you're doing. Now, of course, the search criteria and the filtering options within Sales Navigator are much better than within regular LinkedIn. So if we just go back here and we go back to my saved searches, you have a much more extensive set of search criteria here, but you do then have the limit. You're sending your connection requests in Sales Navigator, and if people accept within Sales Navigator, that's where your discussion with them will appear, as you can see here. Now, Dux-Soup will monitor both of those mailboxes. It'll monitor both your regular LinkedIn mailbox and your Sales Navigator mailbox for responses in order to manage the automated side of things there if you're using Turbo. But yeah, if you've got both platforms, you just need to manage both mailboxes, unfortunately. It's a way that LinkedIn tie you into keeping Sales Navigator once you've got it, because if you want to keep access to that mailbox, then yeah, you're going to need to keep parting with your hard-earned cash. I'm afraid. It's just the nature of LinkedIn, unfortunately. Yeah, not much else to say there, unfortunately.
Thank you very much. That's very useful, because a lot of customers get quite confused with both inboxes being separate, but not really. So yeah, that's it for me. There's not that we don't have that many questions, and we are running out of time too. So.
Yeah, just to touch on that one very, very quickly though as well, just to say, yeah, it depends on what your target's got. You know, if your target's working in Sales Navigator, they respond in Sales Navigator, that's where your discussions remains, but it may move to regular LinkedIn as well. And at the moment, Dux-Soup only sends follow-up messages in regular LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, so you will not lose any of the messaging if you decide to move to free or regular LinkedIn.
Cool. I've been leaving these up on the page because I think they might be useful anyway. The homepage, the support pages especially, you can find all of our support documentation there and a link to the live chat. So that's a really important place to go.
Yes, and if you have any further questions, you can always go to our website and then email us or ping us via live chat. We'll be very happy to answer them if we haven't answered the questions now.
All right. Well, I will say goodbye, and yeah, in 2 weeks' time I'll be on the call as well with Tyrone. Remember, it's an hour earlier than usual, and get registered because then you'll need time to do your homework and preparation.
Thank you everyone for joining us today, and see you next time.